My summer in San Francisco. As some of you probably know, I work for Creative Commons, which if you got that email that Lisa sent out beforehand, there was a video attached to it and like a little FAQ about what Creative Commons is. What Creative Commons is a nonprofit organization based out of San Francisco that provides a slew of licenses that you can apply to your creative works. Anything from books to video, audio, anything other than computer source code. There are other licenses better for computer source code for open licensing. So I just said the word open licensing. What does open licensing mean? Open licensing is a way of telling your users, the people viewing your content and wanting to use your content possibly upfront, how they can and cannot use your content. So we have 6 main licenses, everything from the most open / liberal / whatever you want to call it, where you can use my content in whatever way you want to use it, but just give me attribution at least. Tell other people where you got that work from. Put my name on it, put a link to my website, whatever. But you can remix it, you can cut it up, you can share it with anyone, whatever. Down to the most restrictive one that we have, which is attribution, non-commercial, no derivatives, where you can't make money off of it, you can't sell t-shirts with my image on it, you can't, the no derivatives part says you can't like cut it up, remix it, quote big sections of it, and stuff like that. Now obviously you can use these works in fair use ways, like you can quote from my text without getting my permission, because fair use is not prohibited or inhibited by Creative Commons licenses. So fair use is quoting things for academic or personal uses. Fair use. It's kind of hard to define actually, but we won't get into that. That's more copyright issues. So there's the 6 main licenses that we provide, and you can go to our website and you can find out which license you want to use for your works. Pretty simple, like 3 yes or no questions. Do you want to allow commercial use? Do you want to allow remixing? And do you want to allow derivatives? That's yes or no questions. Then it gives you a license, gives you a link you can use in an image. And all this stuff is free. We're nonprofit. We don't make any money off of it. We're completely grant funded and from donations from people like you. We sell t-shirts that pay my salary. So yeah, that's about it. That's what CC is. So what I did this summer is, the first thing was case studies. Case studies, I don't know if some of you are familiar with what case studies are. Basically, in the business world, they use them as a overview of a thing, like an organization or an incident or something, to explain what happened and why it's interesting. So what I did is interviewed 5 creatives, people that create content, and asked them why they chose CC and what their experiences have been with them. So the first person I interviewed was Cory Doctorow, the author of Little Brother, which is his latest book, which was on the New York Times bestseller list for 6 weeks or something like that. And all of his works, all his textual works are licensed CC. He uses various ones depending on what his mood is for that book. Everything from non-commercial licenses to no derivatives to, I mean, he kind of experiments. He was one of the original people on the board of CC, not the board, an advisor for Creative Commons way back in the day. So he's kind of vested in it. But then I also interviewed people like this open source developer that works on Blender, which is an open source 3D modeling program that, you know, produced, there's 2 videos. One is Elephant Stream and Big Buck Bunny. Big Buck Bunny was the latest popular one that went around the internet. And all their content is obviously licensed under Creative Commons licenses, because it's kind of the brother licensing scheme as open source licensing. So I produced those case studies. This is the wiki page for them. And there's more to the wiki page. I made some more of the, made some specific profession web pages for people that are interested in those areas. Those are our current featured case studies, I believe. Those 2 were not done by me. Those 2 were done by CC Australia. They're both Australian creators, photographers. The one that I did was the Blender Foundation, the one I'm most proud of. I wasn't actually most proud of Cory's, because everybody talks about Cory and he's kind of an old hat. But Blender is cool, and Ton Rosendahl, the developer, is a really awesome guy, and if you're at all interested in that stuff, I would highly recommend searching for Blender. So yeah, those were the case studies I did. Then I worked on this project called Open Library, which is run by Internet Archive, archive.org, the Wayback Machine, all those things are done by this group called Internet Archive. And their goal is to have one web page per book, which also tells you what the copyright status is of that book. So if it's a public domain or not, and if it's not in the public domain, what year it will be in the public domain under current laws, assuming that Disney doesn't sue or doesn't enact more legislation to extend copyright again. And Canada too. So pdregistry.ca is another website that's doing the same thing in Canada, but they are basically just using the software Open Library. This is what Open Library looks like right now. Or I think the beta site banner is taken off of it, actually. But this is the nice flowchart of copyright determination in Canada. That is what they wrote out and used to develop the software code to determine if a work is in the public domain or not. So first question is, like, is it crown copyright, which is basically if it's published by the government, then it's public domain. Author's birth date, death date, before certain days, blah, blah, blah. Really obviously obnoxious. There are other places you can get this kind of information from, like Cornell has a copyright website where it answers some questions. It'll tell you if it's in the public domain or not. Wow, that did not turn out well. But that should be highlighting this book, not covering it up. But so this is PD Registry, what we're working on. And I'm highlighting a book by Mark Twain. And nice, all the pertinent information that I wanted you to read is blocked out. But so let's pretend that that is, what book is this? Life on the Mississippi. And when you click on that, you go to the web page for that book. It includes like its ISBN number, and if we can get a cover of it, it'll have a cover there. It'll have a table of contents, stuff like that. And it says that this book, the part that's highlighted, is entered the public domain in Canada. This book entered the public domain in 1960. This assessment makes many assumptions. View details. These are the details about that book, copyright determination. So these are the assumptions that were made. We're assuming the current year is 2008. We're assuming the year of publication is 1883. We're assuming the list of authors is complete, only one author, Mark Twain. And we're assuming that he died in 1910. So with that information, we are pretty darn certain that it's in the public domain. And this was all done by code. No one entered that information by hand or anything. So it's a pretty neat tool. Could be a pretty neat tool once it's released and edited by people to make it even better. So what did I do with that? I did a lot of bug triage and fixing. This is the bug list that it currently is. There's a few critical bugs, but that's not my fault. Those are all the bugs that I fixed. Thank you. Yep. And that's what we started with. It went many more pages, but so the project is getting close to being released. Oh yeah, bugs. So I'm also a member of the Ubuntu community team here in Michigan, and I do a lot of bug triage with them. And at the beginning of the summer, I showed this slide to my employer, Creative Commons, that I'm #4 bug triager for Ubuntu. Look at that. But then at the end of the summer, I dropped to #6. Work. So another project, moving on, who cares about bugs? CC Host 5 is what this website called CC Mixer is based off of. CC Mixer is a place where you can sign up and make an account and release your music under a CC license, and other people can remix your music in various ways and use other people that are on that site. It's very geared towards remixing music, and the tools that it provides really enable that really well. And there's a new version of it coming out called CC Host 5, and I did all the documentation for it, which, as you can imagine, was loads and loads of fun. But then there's also this other project called Libre License that I didn't write anything for it. No code, no anything. It's merely a software library that allows programs to be license aware. So if this program, like a music player, if you integrate this lib license into it, it'll now be able to read information about that file and say, what license is licensed under, if it's a CC license, if it's full copyright or not. And then also if you have a creation program like GarageBand for Macs, if they integrate a lib license, you could, at the time of creation, apply a CC license to it. And so that wherever this file goes, wherever on the internet, people will always know what license it is. No screenshots for that one, sorry. These are some goals I had for it. Get into those projects. Those are all open source projects. This is not me. This is our booth at Linux World, which is this big Linux open source, more businessy conference in San Francisco every year. And that's just a picture that I love. That this was another coworker, another intern this summer, Frank Tobia, who goes to RPI out east, if you know him at all. But he was kind of shy, but I made him get a picture with the BSD girls, who are well known in the Linux world. What else did I do? Did the whole rock band thing. That's me there playing drums. Went to some museums, went to see, what's the guy's name? Chihuly is the name of the guy, the glass artist that did that. Alcatraz, of course. And other images of things that I don't want you to see. And yeah, those are my attributions for it. Because at CC, we all know that you must attribute your works. But anyways, if you have any questions about CC, I'll take them now. Anything at all? Yeah.
What's the PD registry supposed to be?
PD registry, that's a sore subject, actually. I'm ready to go live with it. The grant foundation is not. They have a couple more requirements that they want before they'll go live with it and consider the project done. But those are things that I can't fix. It needs to be done by some more skilled programmers. So hopefully in the next few months, it'll go live. The open library version of it will hopefully also be out at the same time. So like the open library is live right now, but the copyright determination part of it is not. So yeah. I think I saw another hand, possibly. No? Yes?
Your rock band, did you Creative Commons license your songs?
Well, no, because they were all the rock band songs, like Pearl Jam and whatnot, which are under copyright, and there's no way I could get that. This picture is CC licensed of us. It's licensed. Rock Band is licensed by Bovinity, which is one of the other employees of Creative Commons, and that's a by essay, so you can use it, just share it alike. Anything else? All right, well, thanks. Feel free to ask me questions later on about CC if you have any.